There was once a person who believed that life could be tamed. They believed that with enough effort, enough planning, enough force, they could bend reality to their will. They were taught that control was power, that to lose control was to fail. So they tried to hold everything together: their job, their relationships, their image, their emotions. Every day was a silent battle with uncertainty. They smiled on the outside, but inside there was tension, like holding their breath for a life that never fully began. They mistook safety for peace. They thought control meant freedom. But the truth was quietly waiting, the truth that would change everything. One day the storm came. Not a storm of rain, but of life itself. Plans collapsing, people leaving, things falling apart in ways they never imagined. And in the middle of it they realized, the more they tried to fix the world, the more the world revealed their powerlessness. At first they panicked. They tried harder, making lists, chasing answers, asking why. But life stayed silent. It didn't explain. It just kept happening. And in that silence something began to break, not outside but within. They saw that all along what they were really trying to control was fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. Every plan, every decision, every effort to manage the future was a way to escape the present. But the present had been patiently waiting. It had never left. They sat one night, alone in their room, and whispered to the darkness, "I don't know what to do anymore." And for the first time that wasn't defeat. It was surrender. They didn't know it then, but that moment, that tiny collapse of resistance, was the beginning of freedom. Because the truth is, you were never meant to control life. You were meant to flow with it. As the days passed, they began to notice the small things. How sunlight moved across the floor without permission. How their breath came and went without effort. How the heart kept beating without commands. They started to see control was an illusion, and life never needed it. When you try to control, you suffer. When you allow, you live. They began to walk slower, to listen deeper. The mind would still scream, "What if? What next? What now?" But underneath that noise, something softer was speaking. A quiet awareness that whispered, "You are safe even when you don't know." That's the truth most people never hear. You don't need to know what's next. You only need to be here. The person began to notice that every time they tried to grasp life, it slipped through their fingers. But when they opened their hands, life poured in effortlessly. They laughed at the paradox of it. The more you let go, the more you receive. The more you stop chasing peace, the more peace finds you. The more you stop controlling love, the more love grows. One morning, while walking by the sea, they watched waves crash against rocks. Each wave was wild, unpredictable, but somehow it all worked in harmony. There was no control there, only rhythm, only flow. They realized, the ocean never resists the storm. It simply becomes it. And when the wind stops, the ocean doesn't cling to the past. It returns to calm, effortlessly. That was life's lesson. You don't have to fight what's happening. You only have to stop believing that you can't survive it. They began to see how deeply control ruled the human story. Every war, every conflict, every broken heart was born from one thing: the fear of not being in control. We try to control each other, calling it love. We try to control time, calling it ambition. We try to control emotions, calling it strength. But real strength isn't in control. It's in surrender. It's in being open to whatever the moment brings, joy or pain, gain or loss, and knowing that you are the sky, not the weather. The person began to live differently. They stopped forcing things. They stopped chasing what ran away. They stopped trying to make people stay who wanted to go. They realized, if it's meant for you, it flows towards you. If it's not, it fades, and that's grace too. Life stopped being a game of control and became an act of trust. They started trusting the pauses, trusting the delays, trusting the endings, because each one carried wisdom they couldn't yet see. They saw that even heartbreak was holy. It cracked the illusion that we own anything, even love. When you stop owning, you start receiving. When you stop controlling, you start experiencing. When you stop clinging, you start flying. One evening, sitting by the window, they realized something profound. Every time they thought they were falling apart, life was simply rearranging itself to align with truth. The destruction they feared was actually transformation in disguise. Control was never about safety, it was about fear. And fear was never real, it was a story. The story ends when you stop telling it. Weeks turned into months. Peace came not as a feeling but as a state of being. They began to see that surrender isn't passive. It's the most powerful act of alignment with life. When you surrender, you don't give up. You give in to the intelligence that's already guiding everything. Even now, your body heals without your control. The stars move without your command. The heart beats, the breath flows. You are already being lived. So the question is not, how do I control life? But, can I trust life enough to stop? The person realized, every moment is perfectly timed even when it hurts. Every delay is divine. Every loss is an opening. Every uncertainty is an invitation to faith. They began to smile through the unknown. They no longer needed answers, because they had found peace in the mystery itself. Control is fear disguised as responsibility. Surrender is love disguised as courage. And love, real love, requires one thing only: trust. They looked up at the night sky and finally said, I don't need to control what I don't understand. The stars didn't answer. They didn't need to. Their silence said everything. Because life has always known what it's doing. It just waits for you to stop trying to outthink it. So if you're listening to this, if you've been fighting, striving, clinging, trying to hold your world together, hear this. You are allowed to let go. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to trust that even the chaos has order. Let go of control. Let go of timelines. Let go of outcomes. Let life breathe through you again. Because the truth is, you were never in control. You were always being carried. And when you finally surrender to that, you don't fall. You rise.